Hello, everyone. Glad you could be with us today. My name is Brian Major, and welcome to our TASC webinar, Assessment, Affirmation, and Action, Mapping the Course for Caribbean Travel Advisors in 2021. I'm the managing editor of digital publications and guides and Caribbean for TravelPulse.com. And I just want to quickly say, if you are a travel agent selling in the Caribbean, you should be reading TravelPulse.com. I think we have the most comprehensive coverage. But today we're here to talk about something else. We're talking about the unprecedented times in which we're living, where we all face challenges of the sort we've never seen before. It's clear COVID-19 has upended Caribbean travel. And while there's a hopeful landscape with vaccine distribution underway, it's clear we're all facing a new paradigm. For today's tourism-reliant Caribbean destinations to be successful, individuals and companies will need to create innovative, thoughtful, and practical approaches to formulate plans that will enable travel advisors to reboot their businesses in 2021 and adapt to this new landscape. We've gathered today to help discuss that process. We'll discuss ways Caribbean tourism leaders and tourism leaders overall can work with their various local and national governments, policymakers, and other institutions to build a more sustainable tourism industry. We'll also explore what can be done together through tourism to help improve the lives and livelihoods of the people of the Caribbean and their constituents. So we have a distinguished panel of travel experts here to discuss that. I'd like to first introduce Belinda Pridgen. She's Corporate Account Manager at American Airlines. Belinda has 25 years of experience in airline reservations, operations, and procurement. Also with us is Jazmine Douse. Jazmine is National Account Manager at Waterways, and she's responsible for the company's travel consortia and key corporate and leisure accounts. Waterways is one of the leading European river cruise operators, which also operates in other areas of the world, including Africa and Asia. Our next panelist is Maurice Bohman-Carter. Maurice is founder and president of ID Travel Group. ID Travel Group works to improve educational opportunities in areas including the Caribbean. Maurice is a financier and former JP Morgan managing director. He's owned and overseen several hotel projects in Caribbean destinations. Last, but certainly not least, is Hugh Riley, a distinguished veteran Caribbean marketer and tourism executive. Hugh is partner at PM Group, and he's also the former Secretary General of the Caribbean Tourism Organization. We have several questions for our panelists that will enable our discussion, and I will go around to the panelists one by one. You can also input any questions you may have into the chat box, and we'll have a brief Q&A at the end of our discussion, in which we'll get to some of those questions. But right now, I want to go with our first question, and I'm addressing this to Hugh Riley. Hugh, the CDC travel protocol changes last week exemplify, 2 weeks ago, I should say, exemplify the rapid changes which travel advisors and others in the industry must adapt to remain successful. Can you identify any programs, strategies, or approaches that will help Caribbean travel sellers cope with these changes?
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. And let me say kudos to Kelly, Jareed, and all the organizers of this webinar for recognizing the importance of travel advisors to the recovery of the tourism industry in general, and certainly to the success of Caribbean tourism. My hat's off to you for putting the TASC together and for doing this. So there's a lot of material to get through, and I'll do it as quickly as I can. And of course, we have quite a lot of interaction among ourselves as well. Let me not waste a lot of time talking about where we were in the past, but it is still important that we remember what those numbers looked like. So in 2019, so pre-COVID, the Caribbean was welcoming 31.5 million visitors by air Half of that number, about 15.5 million, came from the US, and 30 million cruise arrivals. So it was the world's most popular cruise destination, contributing to many millions of jobs, and the Caribbean was the most tourism dependent region in the world, probably will be going forward. Some of the current realities we are very familiar with, and we won't spend a lot of time on that, but suffice it to say that there's been a historic reduction in travel. And of course, there continues to be massive concern about health safety, an issue which you mentioned a little while ago. Lots of research which our own company has done, the PM Group, and everybody on the call perhaps has also done this, to talk about who's going to come back first. We can discuss this more fully as time goes on, who the familiars are, who the property owners and diaspora and VFR and the romantics and all of that. We know who's going to come back first because the research is telling us that, and we can spend some time talking about how to get them back. We know what's evolving, new testing requirements, new boarding procedures, and so on. What's also still evolving is the whole business of baggage tags at home. Some of our destinations in the Caribbean have started to do immigration and customs documents at home before you go to the airport and so on. So the whole business of contactless travel has become a feature of today's reality. Talking about what's the immediate future going to look like. A lot of detail about redefining international travelers, redefining Caribbean travelers, re-engaging past visitors, reestablishing brand strengths. If any destination in the Caribbean or anywhere else has told you that, that the SWOT analysis that they did pre-COVID is still relevant now, and they haven't bothered to do a new SWOT analysis, they're talking nonsense. Retraining our workforce, clearly it's obvious why we have to do that. Restoring consumer confidence, there are all kinds of things that we need to do as travel professionals, and travel advisors need to do this as well. We're all selling confidence. There is nobody in the United States or anywhere else in the world that says, oh honey, look, the Caribbean is really suffering. They're going to hell in a handbasket. Let's load up the kids and let's go there. Nobody does that. We're selling confidence. Of course, we're selling the truth, and we have to tell the truth well. Truth well told is really what we're talking about. We have to re-examine the whole business of sustainability, and we have to reimagine the role of travel advisors. Travel advisors are going to become far more immersed. They'll have new levels of certification and destination knowledge as time goes on. We suspect that there are certain types of FAM trips that are going to be replaced by virtual FAMs using the latest technology. Actual on-the-ground FAMs, we think, are going to be far more in-depth about the destination and the services which the destination needs in order to grow its business with specific travel advisors. For example, travel advisors understand the value of repeat visitors better than almost anybody. Yet most Caribbean destinations do not do a good job of courting repeat business. There is some synergy that will exist, and we can talk more about this. But I see travel advisors taking a much more active role in the future in helping destinations to organize, to plan, to research, and to target, and to win back the familiars, repeat visitors. Destinations are going to need to create more programs that will incentivize travel advisors and recognize their value to a particular destination or a group of destinations. We can talk about compensation and those kinds of issues. Travel advisors in North America are going to form closer alliances with travel advisors in the Caribbean. You have specific knowledge of your cities that Caribbean counterparts do not have. And similarly, a travel advisor in St. John's, Antigua, has information about his or her island that might be extremely useful to a travel advisor at this end. So those alliances could be profitable. I'm coming to the end. And travel advisors will need to help differentiate one destination from another so that clients get precisely the experience that they seek. So Dominica and the Dominican Republic must be the same, right? Wrong. And surely there's no difference between Bahamas and Bermuda, or Barbados and Barbuda, or Antigua and Anguilla, right? nonsense. That's just not true. So some of the differences are stark and very obvious, but some are extremely subtle. And it's the subtle differences from one island to another that will give you trouble. If your clients understand those subtleties, then you must too. And remember, the Caribbean stretches over 1 million square miles with a population of somewhere north of 44 million people. And those islands are not all the same. If you've seen one island, you've seen one island. And finally, and then I'll stop here, there are some travel advisors that will opt to remain general practitioners, and that's fine too. That's fine too. But those that choose to develop specialized areas of expertise will recover fastest and will be more successful. If your clients aren't bothered about a very specialized area of knowledge, then you're good to go. But if your clients want that specialized expert knowledge, they want to understand the subtle difference between one island in the Caribbean and another, then you should have that understanding. You should have that knowledge. And it is that kind of in-depth knowledge that is available and can be had and can be made available. I'm going to stop there, and then we can talk further about any of this.
You did a tremendous job of setting the picture of the challenges and outlining what is going to be the challenge throughout the region for all of the stakeholders. And particularly, I liked your point about the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Every organization in travel is now going to have to recalculate how they're going to approach travel and society. So I want to go with the same thinking to Belinda. Of course, you represent the airline segment, which is crucial to global travel, not just the Caribbean, obviously. No one's doing this without the supply that gets them there. So we know the challenges. Hugh has expertly outlined some of those. What do you think of those challenges? Do you see those as the same challenges? And what do you think are some solutions? And what is the airline industry thinking right now? Because you guys are at the nexus of this issue.
So we're thinking of creative ways to rebound, basically. And I just want to say that I agree with everything Mr. Riley said, especially one thing he hit on. Actually, 2 points he really hit on is that we are selling confidence as well. The airline is selling confidence. Health and safety is on the forefront and the foreminds of all the travelers, right? They want to know wherever they go, not only can they have a good time, do some of the activities they want to do, but they want to know that they're not going to get sick. They want to have that confidence. And so one of the strategies that the airlines have developed is, how do we sell that confidence? And what we've done is we create a series of videos that we send to all of our customers, showing them how we clean our aircraft. Every little nook and cranny. We talk about the chemicals that we use to clean our aircraft. So that is some of the things that we're doing to promote confidence in flying again. And it is working. It is working. When a traveler goes on board's aircraft, they are confident in knowing that even the air control system at the top has been wiped down by a special chemical that is safe for the traveler and to prevent the spread of a virus. The HEPA filters on the aircraft, which are hospital-like filters, are doing that same thing. So for the first 6 months of the pandemic, American Airlines, and I can dare say all airlines, focused on cleanliness of the aircraft, safety, and health and safety. And again, I think that is so key. You have to find a strategy that helps make your customers, your clients, feel safe when they're visiting your islands and the Caribbean. And that is what I wanted to agree with Mr. Rowley on. You're selling confidence. That is what we're selling every day. American Airlines have what we call the clean commitment. And we're making a commitment to our travelers and to our customer base that when you travel with us, that you are safe and that we're doing everything possible to keep you healthy while you're traveling on our aircraft. So that is the strategy that we focused on, and it has worked. We had a meeting earlier this week, and our numbers are going up, and we are just enjoying that. Our numbers are increasing. And believe it or not, some of the destinations that we see more travel because we're putting more aircraft in is to the Caribbean.
Good.
So.
Thank you, Belinda. I think that's a point worth making. It's a good point. Hugh's former organization had a webinar just before this, and some of the panelists were mentioning that the Caribbean there are people who are going to travel, and the Caribbean is a option in many ways. The safety and health protocols in the Caribbean region generally are science-based and have been working. And also the Caribbean is a option that is obviously relaxing to a group of people who have, all of us, who have kind of had a traumatic year. So it's really something that's good to see for the people who want to travel. And I do believe it can be done safely if we follow the same protocols that the scientists and all of the health officials tell us to. If we observe those protocols, that's the key as much as anything else, in my belief. So great. I want to move on to Jazmine because her company extends through the entire world, but it faces the same issues. I mean, of how we're going to adapt. What are the strategies to implement to make sure that we can allow people to travel? And although she represents River Cruise, she represents a segment that has faced as much challenge as any other in travel. So, Jazmine, why don't you give us some of your expert perspective, if you would.
Thanks so much, Brian, and hello to everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you and just speaking with you a little bit about the way our new world is developing, right? But I would say it goes along the lines of Mr. Riley and Miss Belinda, is that vote of confidence. But I think what that also extends to is the educational factor and becoming that knowledge base. And I think that builds up a level of trust when they know that they can come to you and you always have the answer to the question. You always go above and beyond. You do the additional research. Whenever you're able to provide that type of service, it builds a certain level of trust. And so I would say during this time, if you do have, some of that downtime, building your knowledge base, getting additional education about the niche that you may be selling, or if you want to dabble into a few different things, really becoming an expert in that. So that way they feel that they can come to you in confidence. And also knowing that if you're an expert in the destination or the type of, river or ocean cruise or land tour operator, whatever it is that you may be focusing on, then they will almost automatically assume that you too will have that information regarding the health and safety protocols once they become available, right? Because that's part of what that destination is doing to evolve and remain relevant during these times. So you become that one-stop shop. They don't realize that they find more information about the destination on the internet than they can find from you. So really just making yourself a staple, being educated and having the answers to those questions, I think is very big. And a lot of the suppliers, a lot of webinars, a lot of virtual events that we're doing to really help elevate that engagement, keep that particular supplier at the front of mind. And then we all know travel is a relationship building business, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would also touch on what relationships do you have with certain suppliers? Because those representatives from those suppliers are the ones that have a little bit more of an insight as to what their company might be doing or where they're headed. And if you have a relationship with those individuals, then you may be one of the first people that they call. That business development may say, hey, I know that, you're one of my top sellers, or you're always inquiring about X, Y, and Z. So I wanted to let you know I got some great news. We're planning to open back up on this date, and this is how we're planning on doing it. So having kind of those insider tips based on the relationships, that you build. So I think those are things that have always been really important, I think, with the industry, but I think it's very important right now, so that it's not whether or not we'll return back. It's when we will and who will be ready to take on the business when that opportunity comes. So I say the main thing for you to focus on is be that best person. Be the best person for that person to call, for that client to call, to provide them with the most education and give them that confidence that the individual that they should be using. And that actually leads into social media, right? Social media has taken a completely new precedent as far as importance to us within the industry. And so that's another way that you can really strategize and develop those relationships, get your name out there more, do some more personal videos, let your clients know who you are as an individual, build those relationships again, so that the moment that we do have an opportunity to get back to normal, you want to be first in mind, you know? And so we can't travel physically, but we can travel virtually, mentally, right? And so that is what I think is something very important for you all to do until we are into a place where we can actually sail. One of the things I think is also really important to mention is that while health and safety protocols are being developed, I almost caution how quickly you share that information with your clients, because things are ever changing and they may not be traveling until 2023. And if that's the case, do you want to talk about wearing masks on board? Shouldn't they imagine that future experience to be one that is potentially back to a normal traveling experience? So it's almost like letting those things develop rather than going off of speculation. I think it's something that Waterways has been very particular about. So unless there is, a very set, educational research background behind some of these steps that are being taken, or it's already in motion, for instance, like the airlines are operating like that already. So you can really share what those protocols are. With AMA, we're not operating currently. Waterways, we're not operating currently. So we can only really say so much about what it will actually look like when we do. And so you really want to be careful, when you're explaining that to your clients, so that you can actually set, the correct expectation. So those are some of the things I think are really important during this time to really help us cope with what's happening, and just to really be the go-to person to be ready whenever everything opens back up.
Well put, I thought, Jazmine, and I can't, I've been covering the Caribbean for over a decade now, but before that I covered cruise travel exclusively, and I know I never, and I've talked to other people in cruise, never imagined a period where there would be no ships sailing anywhere virtually, for the most part, for a year. So there's, if there's been a part of the industry that's had to respond to and come up with innovative ways to make themselves and remain relevant, it's the cruise lines and the cruise operators. So I just want to make that point. And now I want to go to our next speaker, because Maurice, as someone who has operated resorts and worked with destinations, he's worked with governments. He's also been responsible for the staff at his properties, and then the relationship with the community. So he's had to look at every aspect of what this situation means. So I think he has a valuable perspective to provide to us. So Maurice, if you would address some of the things that you think are going to be important going forward.
Thank you very much, Brian. And thank you also for the team you was put together here. And I hope that some of the travel professionals on this are familiar and working with my island destinations, ID Travel, and welcome to all of you who are, and those who aren't, we'll get you on board soon. I think the origins of my business, as Brian says, has been Caribbean. We do market companies, destinations around the world, but the Caribbean is our biggest market, and we aim to be that professional company which knows the industry best. And as we work only with travel professionals, not with public, we aim to be the go-to person for travel professionals. So anybody who is out there wanting to know anything is very welcome to get in contact with any of my excellent staff. And we make a point of that, of going back to what Jazmine and Hugh were saying. Information is critical, and in every single email we send out, there's a link to a listing of the current protocols, because they are changing every single day. And on top of that, we put together some programs to make it easy for the travel industry to market this destination, Caribbean destination. And just as a digression, Brian mentioned you mentioned the significant importance of tourism to the area. I think we do feel, obviously, as Hugh said, nobody's going to say, oh, the Caribbean's in trouble, I need to go there. But on the other hand, as professionals who work in the area, we do feel some social responsibility to make certain that these fragile destinations are getting all the support we can give them. And that business of information is so critical to making the people get back there. And so we are encouraging responsible travel. Obviously the protocols are there, we have the information out there, and also we have some programs, like we have a program which is, we've got over 50 hotels of which, and 7 destinations in the Caribbean, which we're offering free complimentary cancellation for any reason up to the moment of departure. It's all about confidence and getting people to feel comfortable about traveling. And I think that's sort of the whole message I share with everybody, that it's confidence and making certain they have the information. I mean, another thing we've done, we've sponsored webinars with general managers in 3 or 4 destinations. We had one which had 200 plus travel professionals. Maybe some people on this session were there, with 7 general managers from the Turks and Caicos. When you see a general manager having a pina colada at the bar or a rum punch, and then you see we had one of the general managers was actually was arriving from Miami, so he took us through the airport. And these is all about getting people to be confident about traveling again responsibly. So I think that's a role for the travel professionals who are here there. And as I say, my company is only working with the industry. So we need to build the confidence of consumers to get them back traveling where they can. And these protocols are difficult. They change every day. I think the only thing is, I feel it's a bit like whack-a-mole. There's a new regulation every day. We adjust to a situation. And oh, today we're putting in a requirement that you have tests. Oh, by the way, it's got to be this type of test. No, maybe you're going to have quarantine when you come back. You know, I think there's a certain feeling of oh well, that's another thing. You know, people have got used to this. And you know, one looks back to 9/11, and we traveled in those days without any security arrangements. Well, we've adjusted to it, and I think the first few months of this were pretty difficult, but as of now, I think whatever the requirements are, I think the airlines have done an excellent job in as Belinda was saying, in instilling confidence and making people confident. And it's up to us, travel professionals, to bring it in and make people feel comfortable about the destinations as well.
I couldn't agree more, Maurice. I think you make some great points. I mean, confidence, as I think each of our panelists has expressed, is at the center of what's going to happen going forward. And your sharing of information also, Maurice, is also critical to understanding this. There's a protocol, there's a new protocol every day, and there's something new that we're reporting on every day. And there is an element of fatigue in this, but you know, I think our president has said, you know, it's not the time to start to, you know, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be something that we're going to have to stick with. And, you know, that's something, you know, that we all need to do together. We're going to need each other's help to do that.
I emphasize responsible travel, and we're not just saying get on a plane. I think with our airline partners and our resorts, when they see the staff all in masks and hand sanitizer everywhere and the social distancing and everything, which is what we've done on webinars, it does instill people to think, okay, travel, I can go there responsibly. I'm not going to put my health at risk.
Leadership, if the operators and like yourselves and the people at the ground level are showing that same commitment, then yes, I think that's, you know, that's particularly important. Maurice, I'm going to come straight back to you and ask, you know, I think, you know, I like to think that situations like this create opportunities for innovation and for new thinking, new ways of thinking necessarily. Is there anything that you've learned in this whole situation that that you want to carry going forward as a strategy because of what you've experienced?
Well, I think I could address that from the point of view of the travel professionals in this group. I think what's become abundantly clear to me is just how important it is for the public to have competent travel advisors when they make their plans. I've heard terrible stories of people sitting on phones for hours trying to get things done, trying to find out information. Whereas if the public, those in the public who are working with competent travel professionals, that's their key. You don't have to do these things. That's the job of your advisor. So to me, the key lesson I've had here, I hate to say it, but I think that this whole situation has emphasized the importance of our industry, of the travel professionals, and of those people who know the way around it. So it's as I say, it's sort of, to me, it's almost a marketing opportunity in a perverse sort of way for the travel industry. And I hope that everybody listening to this webinar realize that this is an opportunity for them really to prove their complete value to their clients. And they should be getting on the phone and telling them what's going on. And if they haven't traveled, they should be discussing their plans with them and just encouraging them to think positively about the whole business of travel and not to dwell on horror stories, which you can see of people sitting in airports and overcrowding and fights on planes and all of that stuff, which of course is a minority and isolated incidences. And as I say, we've followed through with where we with our recommendations. I've had 7 or 8 staff have been out traveling. We've organized fam trips for agents to make them feel confident, aside from the webinars I've mentioned. And I think you know, it is all about confidence and information, and that's the tremendous role which travel professionals, each and every one who's on this webinar listening, you must get out there, talk to your clients, make certain you're educated, listen to everything which you said in this webinar, do your homework, which we'll help you with, and then you'll bring your clients in. They may not travel tomorrow, although quite frankly, I saw a booking coming in today for 2 rooms for tomorrow. People are traveling. I'm seeing this, most of our bookings are either very short term, as people look out and see the snow and say it's time to get on a plane, or else they're for next winter. In fact, our bookings for next winter are incredibly strong. They're the strongest festive bookings as of now, the strongest they've ever been at this time in January for next Christmas. I don't know if the airlines are seeing that, Belinda, are they? Is that something the airlines are seeing as well, or other people can comment on?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen increase of bookings. As I said before, mostly going to the Caribbean, but I learned something new already during this webinar, and Mr. Rowley mentioned that, and he talked about repeat business to the Caribbean, that it's really low. And I find that very difficult to believe, because I would think that, you know, that is like the Caribbean. Who doesn't want to go back to the Caribbean, right? But I think this is a good time to rebuild that repeat business. And Jazmine mentioned using social media. Maurice, you mentioned building those relationships with your clients. And one of the things that the airlines did to get people back on our airplanes is that we started having those types of conversations with our customers. What's important to you? Right now, we have a phone bank of agents making calls to our Advantage customers, and they're just asking questions. What's important to you? Is it the cleanliness of our aircraft? Is it safety? What is important to you? And as a result of those phone calls, we're collecting that data and that information, and we're using that to create a product and to enhance our product and build that confidence with our travelers. So we're listening to our customers and hearing what they have to say, and we're asking those difficult questions. And quite frankly, it not only brought light onto this situation, but some of the things we were doing wrong in our business to begin with, right? Because we're going to hear it if we ask those types of questions. And so this period actually really helped us ask our clients, like you said, Maurice, and have those conversations and show them that we really want to hear what they have to say. And then we can address the issues of safe, healthy, build the trust, build the confidence, and get people back on airplanes again. And that has been so successful, so successful. And I think that when you build those relationships, not only with the travel advisors, but with your clients, it helps build that trust and create repeat business, which is also important. You know, we're taught in sales to focus on the 80%, the 20%, not the 80, those 20% that bring you the most value. And, you know, your repeat customers are easy customers. Those are the ones you want to go after. So the strategies that you build should go after those customers, those repeat customers that came to your property or experience your product or service, and get those back again. And that's who you should be focusing on in the time right now. This is a great opportunity to do that and ask some of those difficult questions. So I just wanted to make that a point, because when Mr. Rowley said that, I was like, really? Repeat business is low. I was really shocked to hear that. So,
All right, I think it's
Sure, as a Caribbean marketer, he probably thinks it's not high enough, no matter what.
okay, yeah, there you go.
That is
what the number is. I'm sure that's what he's thinking.
That is precisely the thing. I mean, of course, the Caribbean got repeat business pre-COVID-19, and lots of it. The Caribbean could always have gotten more, and I think that if we're realistic, we really had better not just be sitting on our hands and thinking that that business is just going to come back. One destination everybody's going to want to be getting business back. The ones that are most aggressive and doing the sensible things, they're the ones that I think are going to win in this game. So here's the thing. When was the last time anybody said to you, dear Mr. and Mrs. Major, we're so happy that you got married here. We realize that you're coming up to your, first or second or fifth wedding anniversary. We'd love to have you back. Boy, have we got a deal for you. Or we noticed that you've started family now. Maybe that idea was begun on our island. Who knows? Have we got a family package for you? And by the way, these people are all, Mr. and Mrs. Major, are telling their story all over social media. They're Instagramming things all day long and so on. The point I'm making is, it isn't that we don't get repeat business. We don't get nearly enough of it. And we are going to have to be more aggressive about it going forward. We cannot assume that people are just going to pack their bags and come on down. And even so, if we think that those same visitors aren't also being courted by Seychelles and the Indian Ocean and the Middle East and Timbuktu, we're hallucinating. So let's try and get together with travel advisors who know a thing or two about how to get repeat business. Let's put you can't believe how many destinations over a period of time have said, look, yes, we know who's coming here. Yes, we know who got married here. But you know what? To find that business and to go after it, it's too much trouble. Of course it's trouble, but it is absolutely worth it. Another very popular excuse is, oh, well, people don't want to be solicited. Give me a break. You don't want to do it illegally, but there's permission marketing. I mean, everybody else is soliciting them, but they're doing it legally. You get their permission to do it. Yeah. Oh, they don't want to spread the word that they've been here. Look, nobody wants to have paparazzi jumping out from behind fences and so on and sticking lenses in their faces. We got that. But people like to show off that they've been to the Caribbean. Travel is a fashion conscious business. That's why they show off those silly hats when they come back, and they want people to see where they've been, and they've got their hair braided in ways that their neighbors will ask about, and so on and so forth. This is a fashion conscious business. People are going on social media and telling you that they just got back from Antigua or Nevis, or St. Martin. let's not fool ourselves into thinking that people want to keep all of this stuff secret. They don't. So they've been there, and the research is telling us, guys, that the familiars are going to be the first ones back. And Maurice was talking about this whole business of people having some sort of responsibility, social responsibility to the destination. Who's more likely to have that responsibility? The people who've been there and they've developed a relationship with the destination. One other quick thing I want to mention, and then I'll just be quiet. One of the things that travel advisors do that is incredibly valuable, and people kind of slide over it, is they're able to answer the question that clients have about whom do you know? Do you know anyone there? Listen, there is all kinds of information that their clients can go online at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they can do all the research they want online. But when some specific request is necessary, whom do you know there? So if you've got a client that's, a high school teacher, and you can connect them up with a high school teacher in Anguilla, or your special client's a pediatrician, wants to have a drink with or a lunch with a pediatrician in Nevis, or those kinds of things matter hugely. Mind you, again, as I said at the beginning, if your clients don't care about that, that's fine. If they just want to do the fly and flop thing, nothing at all wrong with that. But some clients want to come back with an experience that they could not have at home. They want to get into somebody's house. They want to make a bond with someone, in St. Martin. Travel advisors can do that better than anybody else. Enough of that. We can come back to some other issues a little bit later.
I couldn't agree more. I think that is, you're placing our advisors right in the place that they need to be thinking. These experienced travelers, the ones that are the bedrock of your agency, of your business, the frequent travelers, those are the ones that need to be communicated with. And Jazmine, you're in the same boat. So I'm sorry. So why don't you tell us what you've learned and what you're applying these days with this situation.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. And since you mentioned boat, I figure I might as well let you guys know I'm on the Alma Magna right now. Not literally.
I'm always joking with you about the boat back there.
It's the Sunday.
Be careful.
Alma Magna. And it's our vessel that's twice the width of a standard European river cruise ship. So it's perfect for those ocean cruisers that are looking, to come over to that river experience. And I'm sure we'll have some time to talk about that at a later time, but just wanted to, in case anyone was wondering what the Alma Magna was and where I was at here. But there was a lot to learn this past year. There's a lot to learn, a lot of challenges that we face, but I think one of the biggest things I think at Alma that we've been kind of screaming from the rooftops is that together we are better. Together we are better. You cannot withstand challenges, crises alone. You need each other. You need your peers, you need your suppliers, you need your clients. It is a three-way trifecta, and it's mandatory for you to maintain those relationships during this time. So I think collaboration was really big for us. When I'm speaking on a supplier level, I think about the collaborations that we have there in Europe or in Africa and Asia, in addition to the collaborations that we may have within the travel industry on the other supplier side, or news publications or things of that sort. It was really important to stay in touch. It was really important to stay engaged during these times, because it allowed us to work together and brainstorm, and things that we weren't doing that we could pick up from someone else, or things that we could share that someone else could find really helpful. We're all in this together. And at the end of the day, we all want to see the travel industry succeed. So if we're able to band together to kind of get through this, I think we'll all make it out on the other side a lot better than taking an individualistic approach. So anytime that you can actually collaborate with your other peers to maybe do a presentation on the destination, even to figure out who of your clientele that you can do some type of cross-selling with, right? Because you may have a different type of clientele than your peer, but here you're able to bring them into the same environment and share the same information that either of those clientele may have never even considered before, but they trust you. They trust your recommendations. You have a nice collaboration or teamwork kind of feel with your peer, and it really just allows it to kind of bring it all together. And it also allows you to stay in the know. I think I mentioned that earlier. Building those relationships allow you to stay in the know about what's happening and how things are ever changing. But then also it allows you to explore some hidden business opportunities. So one of the things I just wanted to share with you guys is obviously cruising has been non-existent, right? Like you said, Brian, no one would have ever imagined not going on a cruise for 365 days, right? Like it just almost seemed, it just seemed like it was never could be a reality, but then here we were. But here we are in the middle of a pandemic, knowing that we can't cruise and knowing that's really only our only lifeline as a river cruise company. That's all we focus on. But you look at your relationships, you look at your partnerships, and you try to find ways that you can really still stay afloat during these times. And with AMA, we have a lot of on the ground relationships and tour operators there in Europe. So as soon as we realized that we cannot travel for US passengers and Canadian passengers, well, what about European passengers? What about Europeans that are there in Europe that don't need to take a flight, that have their own health and safety precautions that are set and protocols that are set by the EU? What about those individuals? How can we tap into that relationship? And so we had a German tour operator that we approached and a charter contract with us. And there were it was a total of 4 months, a 4-month sailing season. And so to have a river cruise company sail last year in the middle of a pandemic was unheard of. And we were able to do it for 4 months with no incidents on board, 5-night sailing opportunities. But again, that was because of the relationships that not only we were building and maintaining prior to what was happening to COVID, but continuing to maintain and feed into those in the middle of this pandemic. And, you know, when you think about the fact that we have a little bit of that downtime, you think about ways to really maximize that so that it could be the perfect foundation for you in the future. So I think for us, that relationship building, I think was huge for us to really stay up to date and then really, again, have opportunities for the cross sell and then really to find any hidden business opportunities that may be waiting out there that will not come to you unless you go and get them.
Great example of how adapting and changing strategies and maybe just looking for new ways to think and to do things are going to be the normal for us, the new normal for all of us. It's something that we're all adapting to and getting used to. And you know, I think, Jazmine, that also points out that you did that operation, your company was able to do that operation. AMA Waterways is a first-class operator. I've been aboard the vessels. But it also, I think, points out that, again, if we observe the protocols that are in place and they're health and science based on the expert information, travel is available for the people who want to travel. So until we get back to more pre-pandemic levels of travel, I think, you know, that's going to be the way to go.
You know, Brian, I will also add that, you know, it was really important of how you market these experiences as well, right? So whether you're a supplier and advisor, the way you market it, because people are looking to travel, but they're not wanting to see travel and imagine that it's this hospital feel, right? There's this very constrained, that is not what people associate with travel. Travel is leisure, travel is fun. And so I think it's also important, even when we did do our sailings over, over the summer last year, the way that we market those sailings, the terms that you use about how long they may need to wear masks on average, or just ways that you can really, you can position it in a way that still sounds very attractive, but also maintains that health and safety focus. I think there's a balance in that as well. So I think that that's something that we learned also, is how to respond to that crisis and how to make sure that we don't scare, the clientele, but how do we still make sure that they're informed, that we're being honest and transparent with them as well.
I think it's a good point, Brian. If I could just add to that, I mean, I think we're going to put some pressure, additional pressure on task on the travel advisor selling the Caribbean, because one of the issues that we have to deal with in the Caribbean is the fact that there isn't as much standardization as there could be in terms of these protocols. So some destinations want, you know, PCR tests only, and some will accept antigen tests as well. Some say 72 hours and some say a week. And some say you've got to test before and after, and some say you've got to test and quarantine, and others test and retest and quarantine, and so on and so forth. The travel advice, nobody's client is going to bother to do this sort of hopscotch. Let's see now, who and Nevis has this, and Antigua wants that, and Anguilla wants this, and Bahamas wants that. Nobody's going to try and remember that. So someone has to have those details. Somebody has to be on top of those details. And I dare say that's a travel professional's role. The other thing that we really should bear in mind is that we tend as a region, as a whole Caribbean region, to get grouped together. And when I say, if you've seen one island, you've seen one island, I really do mean that, because we have to get it into people's heads that even though there is some commonality among the countries of the Caribbean, there are some amazing differences, and that's what gives the region its diversity. But here's the problem that most people have is the geography. So you say the region is 1 million square miles, and people kind of forget that. So here's what happens. So let's give an example. So if something happens in Albany, New York, tomorrow afternoon, it's not going to stop anybody from going to Brooklyn. But if something ever happened in the Dominican Republic, Trinidad gets cancellations. Guys, please, the travel advisors are the ones that have to help people to understand the geography, that something that happens 1,000 miles away really doesn't affect your ability to have a great time in the Caribbean. And by the way, I'm not laying all of that geographic ignorance on the feet of people overseas, because we in the Caribbean, I mean, the same problem affects us clearly. I mean, I'm the first to admit that, I was a grown up before I even understood, quite frankly, that there was any difference in the cultures between Canada and the United States. I mean, I grew up thinking, well, I mean, they're part of the same landmass. They all speak English, well, with the exception of one province in Canada. They all look alike. I mean, how different could they be? What? Is there a cultural difference between Canada and the United States? What are you talking about? Hey, what an awakening. So if you think that that's an issue, imagine how much more complex it is in the Caribbean. Somebody has to know all of that. And I guess that's the business of task. And it is the business of making sure that the travel advisors that sell the Caribbean know these kinds of subtleties. Again, it's not the stark differences that will give you the trouble. It is the subtleties, because your clients need to know that you know. So if you went, there's a district in Barbados called Accra, and it's spelled exactly the same way as the capital of Ghana, which is Accra. Your clients know instantly how to assess you if you called Accra, Accra. It is those subtleties that make the difference. So you've got to know what they are. Anyway.
I couldn't agree more, Hugh. I mean, that's the travel agent's goal. That's their lifeblood. That is what they're selling and what they're providing. And it couldn't be more important than it is now. And I want to make the point that TASC, T-A-S-C, Travel Agents Selling the Caribbean, has done, it almost was conceived from this situation, because they have done a great job of being an essential resource for folks to go to find out what all of these shifting protocols are. There's one place you can go, and TASC has provided that. They've become that. I think we're coming to the end of our hour. And I just want to go through, first thank all of our panelists. I don't know if we have any questions coming to us, so I do want to ask each of our panelists about the future. Belinda, has mentioned bookings are looking very strong going forward. I don't know how Jazmine feels about that, and Maurice, but what are each of your feelings about the future of our business? I personally think, I think Hugh mentioned that it appears from PM Group's research that people are going to want to come back. And I truly believe that when we are able to travel close to pre-pandemic numbers, people are going to do this thing I've heard called revenge travel, where they're going to come back and in a vengeance to take back what was theirs, the right to travel. So why don't we start with Belinda, and each just quickly tell us what's your prediction for the future? What are your thoughts about the future of traveling?
My prediction is that first, I think travel is definitely going to pick up the second half of this year. I don't think it'll be revenge travel yet at that stage, but I do think it's going to pick up. Here's the reason why: because people want to travel. We're tired. We want to go someplace. We want to see the sunshine. Europe is still a little iffy. The country restrictions to get into certain countries in Europe is just really iffy. And so travelers from the US especially, and Canada, think, well, what's the safest place to go? I want to get away. And so they'll think the Caribbean. So I think it's going to pick up the second half of this year. And then again, I think the revenge, which I heard that term just yesterday, revenge travel, will start in 2022. But I think that you'll see it pick up the second half of this year. I also like to mention just two things very quickly. American Airlines have on their website an app, two apps, and one is called Sherpa, SHERPA. And Sherpa houses all the country restrictions. If you need a COVID test, how many hours in advance you need it. It's on their website, aa.com. And the great part about Sherpa, you could tell them what nationality you are, where you're traveling to and from, and it would tell you any country restrictions. And the second thing we did is we entered a partnership with a company called Verifly. It is an app. So once you take your COVID test, you can upload this, and it meets all the HIPAA and medical legalese. You can upload the results of your test into this app called Verifly. So once you get to the airport, you don't have to carry documents around with you. You can just show your app, and there's a scanner there to verify that you have tested within the 3 days or 7 days or whatever that country's restrictions are. So those are two great points, tools actually, that you can use and share with your clients as well. But I do think that, again, that I think travel will pick up the second half starting in July. And then I do think the Caribbean is best positioned because I still think that people feel safe going to the Caribbean as opposed to Europe and other destinations. And then, as we all discussed here, with the trust, the confidence, the marketing tools that are going to be put in place, I know by the travel advisors, that's going to even make them feel more comfortable about traveling, especially to the Caribbean.
Who's next?
That's great, Belinda. Maurice, quickly, do you have any predictions? 2021, 2022?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think the sharing with Belinda, I think the Caribbean is extremely well placed to pick up in the resurgence of travel. I do think that we're seeing this. It's easy to go there. A lot of people just, are very familiar with it. They love it. And it's not, yes, there is some competition, but it's not really in severe competition with more distant places like Maldives, which we sell, and Fiji and places. Those are once in a lifetime special occasion trips. Whereas if you live on the East Coast and even on further west in the US, you know, a 3 to 5 day trip to the Caribbean is pretty common, and it doesn't require a lot of planning. As I said earlier, we've had bookings today for people traveling tomorrow. Well, you're not going to travel to Fiji tomorrow. There's no way about that. So I do believe that as this comes back, the Caribbean is as well placed as any destination in the world to pick up travel. I think we're seeing that in the airlines. More flights are coming in very quickly to lots of destinations, and even from places where there haven't been flights before. So I'm very optimistic that when it comes, the Caribbean will get more than its fair share. Now, I think that on top of that, there is incredible pent-up demand. People have not been traveling; they're missing this winter's vacations, and a lot of people go from the Northeast in this period every year to somewhere. They may go to the same place. Some of them, they may go to, but they go, and they've missed it, and a lot of them had it canceled last year. So, and I think this psychology tells us that 50% of the enjoyment of a vacation is thinking and dreaming about it. So that's why I think we are beginning to see incredible bookings for next winter, because people are saying, my goodness, it's going to be all right. I'm going to be able to travel, and they're booking. So I think we're going to have an unbelievable resurgence for next winter. Now, exactly when it kicks in, of course, the summer season, I'd never call it the off season. I always call it the summer season. The summer season in the Caribbean is a slower time anyway than this time, and it's not so profitable for places. But I do believe we will see a resurgence of travel in this summer as well. And additionally, that summer travel tends to come from the south, from the west, more northeast, because they're going to Europe and places that may be diverted. I think we will continue to see, which we're seeing now, incredible bookings for next winter. I guess my only concern is, we've seen this before, if this whack-a-mole thing, which we're dealing with, shows its ugly head again with another surge or this, that, and the other, God forbid, will we have to have another period when we cancel these things? But at the moment, I'm very optimistic, and all the news we're hearing is that, you know, really you will be, or at least adapted to it. And I think what Belinda was saying about the apps they've done, the ease they're making it, the industry generally, airlines, hotels, everything, they've adapted to this. There are hotels when they introduced the testing requirement before coming back. A lot of the hotels are now giving it to them, giving it to guests on site, so they don't have to go to a hospital, and it's not a big deal. Some of them are including it. They're free. There's a charge for it. But anyway, the whole industry is adapting to this new scenario. So I think travel is becoming easier. People are becoming used to it. As I referred earlier, after 9/11, we had big adjustments, having some big adjustments now. But the industry is making it easier and easier for people to travel with these new protocols and the new situation we have, as witnessed by that American Airlines app, and other airlines doing similar things. So I'm really extremely optimistic about next winter. I think this winter obviously is slow, although we are seeing business picking up at the last minute. But I think next winter, travel professionals are going to be extremely busy, and that's a nice thought. So everybody out there, get ready to be busy, and don't forget, as Hugh and Belinda were saying, you must market to your customers. Give them a call, discuss what's going on. Don't just sit back and wait for them to call you.
I would agree. And quickly, can we get Jazmine in as well on this and ask, you know, you look beyond the Caribbean, but we know the travel agents sell not only Caribbean vacations, they sell all kinds of vacations. You might sell Caribbean as well as river cruises easily. So you have to look at the travel landscape overall. And 2021, Jazmine?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brian. I would say that we're kind of seeing a consistent trend kind of with the other comments here. We're seeing a really big uptake for the second half of the year as far as bookings that are coming in specifically for traveling with AMA in Europe. And so we're seeing that the end of the year, really August through December, those bookings are starting to come in. We do believe that things normalize fairly quickly. I think it's a direct relation to the vaccination. As the vaccination rates go up, then the cases start coming down. People start to feel more comfortable traveling. So we do see there's a direct, correlation there. I would also say 2022, as far as with Alma Waterways, as far as advanced sales, is the best they've ever been. We think we're going to have an amazing and very strong 2022. I think a lot of those who maybe were booked last year that needed to change decided to forego 21 and decide to say, I want to be safe and just go with 22, which is, totally okay. Whereas others, said, hey, I want to move it to next year because I want to go as soon as possible. So we do see that things will normalize fairly quickly in our opinion. But we also are seeing that river and ocean are two different entities. Even though we're talking about cruising in general, when you're talking about larger ocean cruise lines, you tend to have thousands of people on board, if not hundreds and hundreds of people. So we do foresee that river cruise lines will get back to normal operations over the upcoming months. A lot quicker than ocean cruise lines. So that may be something you may want to, if you've never thought about river before. We know cruising and we know how cruise people are, and they come back and they're repeat. They're easy to book, right? Because you allow the cruise line to curate these perfect itineraries for you. So why not consider river? Because we do foresee that we'll be, one of the first to kind of come back and get things going as soon as we are able to do so. I do think there's two other things that are be a little bit different in the future of travel going forward. And one of them is the impact of diversity in travel going forward as well. I think over the past year, there was a lot happening with a lot of companies deciding to make a stance or realizing that their product may not be as representative. And so I think we'll see a lot of efforts from some of the suppliers going forward. But I think it's also important for you as an advisor to speak out. If you need certain materials, if you feel that there's something that you're unable to find in order to market yourself and to your clientele, then ask for it. And the more requests that come forward, maybe the more they'll, be able to be fulfilled. So I think that that's going to be another one. And then also the in-person versus virtual. This is going to be huge. I think there's going to be a combination of the two because we've always known about that in person. I'm sure your BDMs probably come and give you personal sales visits and come to visit your office, or maybe you'll go out to lunch and things of that sort. Well, with us being able to survive in this new virtual world, I think going forward, knowing some of the monies that were able to be saved by going virtual, but still really understanding the value of in-person, that you'll see a combination of that going forward as far as presentations, events, conferences, marketplaces, and things of that sort as well. So those are a couple of the things I do see, but we are pretty confident. We'll have to see how things go this summertime. But the main thing is how quickly the distribution of the vaccine will be. And based on that, I think the moment that those restrictions are lifted, that the revenge travel will begin. People are going to be ready to get out. Our team actually just sent over an article by Afar, and I thought it would be great just to share just a couple of these stats that came across. And one of them was that 63% of respondents responded to the survey saying that they desperately need a vacation. So that means that those 63%, those are those that you should be speaking to right now and helping them plan. They may not be ready to book, but you help them plan for a vacation so that the moment that they're ready, that you can go ahead and, provide that experience to them. And then there was another stat there that said 97% of survey respondents said that simply having a trip planned, any kind of trip, makes them happier. So again, that should make your ears ring. Help them plan, help them dream, help them visualize whatever their next destination might be, even if they're not ready to book right now. Stay in the forefront because the moment that everyone feels more comfortable to travel, I think there's going to be a resurgence, and it's going to be something that we've never seen before.
Absolutely.
Great points. I think we're at the end, but I do want to let Hugh cap us off. But I do want to agree with Jazmine, and that one thing I've learned this year is that you have to visualize what you expect and like what you want first. And dreaming is a big part of what accomplishment turns into. So Hugh, any last thoughts about 2021?
Certainly agree with my colleagues. We are at the PM Group. We are extraordinarily confident that 2021 will see the return of some of the business that we have lost. We don't expect it all back in a year, but we know that it will begin to come back in 2021. Our concern is that every destination on God's green earth is saying exactly the same thing. And some of them have massively big budgets and they're going to be throwing that money at consumers. And we aren't under any illusion that the Caribbean can compete in terms of marketing budgets with some of these big destinations. Even some domestic destinations in the United States and Canada have budgets that are bigger than some Caribbean destinations. And they're going to open up that faucet and everybody is trying to do exactly the same thing. So the PM group, we are trying and we are focused on giving our clients a massively important advantage based on two criteria. One, how people have started to research and to look for destinations and to book destinations, because people have become accustomed to a whole different way of using the technology in the last little while since COVID has begun. And we know for sure that we need to give an advantage to destinations and to hotels with smaller budgets. There has to be a way to compete that's different, because we're not going to assume that all we need to do is to open up our doors and people will fill the hotels again. It's going to be a competition like we have never seen before to get travelers back to destinations. And so we're trying to give our clients an advantage, which we will talk more about on the next webinar.
Well, thanks. I mean, you couldn't have made it summed up any better, Hugh. And I think, you know, all of the perspective we learned today kind of blends together and gives us a roadmap for what we're going to have to face in the future and how we're going to get to where we want to go. So I want to thank so much we went a little over, but I think that's because we had such a stimulating conversation. So I want to thank all of our panelists, Belinda, Jazmine, Maurice, and Hugh for being with us. And thank you for joining us for this TASC webinar, and hope to have you with another one with us for another one in the future. So thank you. Thanks again, guys. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you all.